A white horse rears up without its rider. Around it, the greatest Persian army left in Greece is breaking apart. Not retreating, not regrouping, simply disintegrating. Thousands of men running in every direction at once with the particular panic of soldiers who have just watched the one man holding everything together fall from his saddle and not get up. His name was Mardonius, the last hope of the Persian Empire in Greece. In a few minutes, you are going to watch exactly how he got there and exactly why this battle, the battle nobody talks about, was the moment the ancient world changed direction permanently. This is the Battle of Plataea, and this is where it ends. Go back 1 year. It is 479 BC. 12 months have passed since the Greek fleet destroyed the Persian navy at Salamis. Xerxes I went home. That part is true. He crossed the Hellespont on a single ship and disappeared back into his empire, leaving Greece behind him like a problem he had decided someone else could solve. That someone else was Mardonius. Mardonius was not just any Persian general. He was Xerxes' own cousin. He was the man who had originally argued most passionately for the invasion of Greece, who had convinced Xerxes that Greece was weak, fragmented, and conquerable. He had personal skin in this outcome. So when Xerxes retreated after Salamis, Mardonius volunteered to stay behind with the best of the Persian land army and finish what the invasion had started. His first move was to send a diplomat to Athens with a generous offer. Athens would be rebuilt at Persian expense, its territory expanded, its autonomy preserved, if it would simply accept Persian overlordship. The Athenians called a public assembly to hear the offer read aloud. Then they threw the Persian ambassador out of the city. But rejecting Mardonius's offer put Athens in an impossible position. It had no land army capable of stopping him. It needed Sparta, desperately. Immediately, the Athenian ambassadors went to Sparta 3 times. 3 times the Spartan council delayed. From a purely Spartan perspective, letting Mardonius take Athens and defending the Isthmus of Corinth made a certain cold, logical sense. The Athenians made their final argument in terms the Spartans could not dismiss. If Sparta abandoned Athens now, Athens would have no choice but to accept Mardonius's offer and use its 200 warships against Sparta. The Persian alliance plus the Athenian fleet would make the Isthmus wall irrelevant. Sparta moved. 5,000 Spartan warriors, the largest Spartan army ever sent outside the Peloponnese, marched north under the regent Pausanias. Allied contingents from Corinth, Megara, Tegea, and others fell in behind them. By the time the Greek allied army assembled near the town of Plataea in Boeotia, it numbered approximately 110,000 men. Mardonius burned Athens again on the way south, the second burning of the same city in 12 months. The Athenians evacuated again. They had become very good at it. The two armies faced each other across the Esopus River on the plain below Plataea, and for 10 days absolutely nothing happened. Both commanders had excellent reasons for caution. Mardonius understood that the Greek phalanx on flat, open terrain was a dangerous proposition. Persian infantry had demonstrated at Thermopylae that it could not break a determined Spartan phalanx in a direct frontal assault. He wanted better conditions before committing. Pausanias had his own reasons for waiting. His position gave the Greek army access to fresh water from springs behind them. Moving onto the open plain would give Mardonius's cavalry room to operate against Greek flanks. So both sides waited. While they waited, Mardonius used his cavalry aggressively, raiding Greek supply lines, fouling water sources, probing the Greek lines constantly, keeping the allied army in a state of perpetual low-level anxiety. On the 9th night of the standoff, a rider came alone through the darkness to the Greek lines. His name was Alexander I, king of Macedon, a Greek kingdom fighting on the Persian side. Alexander had spent the entire campaign alongside Mardonius. He knew the Persian commander's thinking, and on the 9th night, he rode alone through the darkness to warn the Greeks. Mardonius would attack at dawn. The Greek response was not to prepare a defensive position and wait. It was to move. Immediately, in the dark, Pausanias ordered the entire Greek army to relocate during the night to a new position with better access to fresh water and ground that would neutralize Persian cavalry. Moving 110,000 men in darkness over unfamiliar terrain is a logistical nightmare. In practice, the Greek withdrawal became partially disorganized. Units lost contact with each other. Dawn found the army strung out across the landscape in a dangerously fragmented formation. Mardonius saw this from across the Asopus River and drew exactly the conclusion the Greeks feared he would draw. The Greek army was retreating, running. He gave the order to pursue. Persian cavalry crossed the river first, riding hard after the retreating Greeks. Persian infantry followed, not in careful, disciplined formation, but in the aggressive, disorganized surge of an army that believes it is chasing a beaten enemy. This was the mistake. The Greek withdrawal was not a rout. The Spartan phalanx on the right flank was not running. It was turning. The moment the Spartan phalanx turned and formed up, the entire tactical situation inverted. What had looked like a pursuing Persian force suddenly found itself charging into the thing it least wanted to charge into. A Spartan phalanx on ground of the Greeks, choosing with a rocky hillside protecting their flank. The Persians hit the Spartan line. The Spartan line did not move. What happened in the next 2 hours was the largest land battle in Greek history. Persian infantry, brave men with wicker shields and short spears fighting against bronze armored hoplites with overlapping shields and 8-foot spears, crashed into the Spartan phalanx again and broke against it each time. The Persian archers who had been so devastating at Thermopylae found that on open ground against armored hoplites advancing under their shields, their arrows were far less effective. The Spartan advance was slow but absolutely relentless. Mardonius personally rode among his soldiers, visible on his white horse, surrounded by his personal guard, shouting encouragement, placing himself where the fighting was thickest. His presence was the one thing holding the Persian center together. There is a moment in any battle where everything turns on a single event. At Thermopylae, it was the betrayal of Ephialtes. At Salamis, it was the moment the Persian fleet entered the narrow strait. At Plataea, it was a Spartan soldier named Leonidas. Leonidas fought his way through the Persian guard surrounding Mardonius and killed the Persian general. The exact details differ between ancient sources, but the result does not. Mardonius fell from his white horse and did not rise. The effect on the Persian army was instantaneous and total. Every Persian soldier on that plain who saw Mardonius fall experienced the same thing at the same moment. The reason they were fighting was gone. The man who had convinced Xerxes to invade, who had volunteered to stay behind after Salamis, who had kept the invasion alive for a full year, he was dead on the ground before them. The Persian army broke. Not gradually, not unit by unit. All at once across the entire line, the Persian force went from an army fighting desperately to hold its ground to a mass of individual men running for their lives. Persian soldiers threw down their wicker shields and ran northward toward their fortified camp, the only place offering any protection. Pausanias gave the order to pursue. The Persian camp was enormous, a fortified enclosure built to house the largest army Greece had seen since Xerxes himself marched through the year before. Inside those walls were not just soldiers, but the accumulated wealth of a Persian imperial expedition: gold and silver vessels, embroidered silk tents, furniture inlaid with precious metals, the personal treasuries of Persian nobles. The surviving Persian soldiers poured through the camp gates and pulled the wooden walls closed behind them. From the walls, they began shooting down at the advancing Greeks. The sudden transition from open field pursuit to a fortified camp assault gave the Persian survivors a brief advantage. The walls came down. The moment the Greek allied army breached the Persian camp, the outcome was immediate. The Persians inside, already shattered by the death of Mardonius, already broken psychologically, had no capacity to mount a coherent defense once the perimeter was gone. Packed tightly together with no room to maneuver and no commander to organize them, they were trapped. Greek casualties for the entire Battle of Plataea were approximately 1,360 men. Persian casualties are estimated between 40,000 and 60,000. Pausanias walked through Mardonius's command tent afterward and found it prepared for a feast. Gold and silver tables set with food, couches covered in embroidered cloth, vessels of gold and silver laid out in expectation of a victory celebration. Pausanias ordered his own Spartan dinner of barley and black broth prepared next to the Persian feast and showed both tables to his commanders. He said, "Look at what this man left behind, and look at what we eat, and then tell me why he came here to steal our poverty." The Persian wars were over. Permanently. Mardonius was dead. The Persian army was destroyed. Xerxes was back in Persepolis and would never return to Greece. On the same day as Plataea, the Greek naval fleet defeated the remaining Persian forces at the Battle of Mycale on the coast of Asia Minor. Two Greek victories on the same day on opposite sides of the Aegean. The Persian Wars ended not with a single moment, but with a simultaneous double blow that left nothing of the Persian military position in Greece intact. Greece was free. The consequences of what Plataea made possible are almost impossible to overstate. In the 50 years following the Persian Wars, Athens experienced the most extraordinary cultural and intellectual explosion in human history. The Parthenon was built on the ruins that Xerxes had burned. Socrates walked the streets of Athens. Herodotus wrote the first work of history. Hippocrates developed the foundations of medicine. Democracy deepened and matured into the most sophisticated system of self-government the ancient world would ever produce. All of this happened because the Persian army did not win at Plataea, because Mardonius fell from his white horse on a dusty plain in Boeotia, because a Spartan soldier fought through a Persian guard to reach one man. There is an irony in the story of Plataea that history does not always acknowledge. Thermopylae is remembered by almost everyone. Salamis is remembered by many. Plataea is remembered by almost nobody outside serious students of ancient history. And yet Plataea was the one that finished it. Thermopylae bought time. Salamis broke the Persian navy. But Plataea destroyed the Persian land army and made the Golden Age possible. At Thermopylae, 300 men held a pass so that Greece could survive long enough to fight again. At Salamis, 371 ships broke an empire's navy in a straight 1 kilometer wide. At Plataea, Greece finished what Thermopylae started. The Persian Wars were over. The invasion was done. And from that victory, the world we know was born.